What the grateful log is going to do is it's going to help calm your mind down. It's going to put you more into a parasympathetic state. Parasympathetic state, that is your rest and digest system, whereas sympathetic is your fight or flight. So if you are in a very sympathetic state before you go to bed, you're going to be very anxious and it's going to be very difficult to go to bed. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another Carnivore Q&A. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today's question comes from the Carnivore Diet for Beginners group on Facebook. Remember, had recently asked how to sleep on carnivore. It's been 8 days, I can't sleep. Well, this is a great question, and a few things that have helped me and my clients. Number one is going to be diet. With regard to diet, the first thing is going to be the timing and size of your meals. I find that for me personally, if I consume no later than 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed, then I'm going to be able to get a really good deep sleep, and it's going to come down to the size of the meal as well. Generally, the larger the meal, the more of a gap I'm going to want between my meal and bedtime. The smaller the meal, the closer to bedtime I can consume it. Second thing is going to be the fat to protein ratio. For me personally, I find that I get a really good sleep when I consume a high fat diet right before bed. If I consume high protein before bed, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep. And just the other day, I actually did consume a higher protein meal than usual, and I was not able to go to bed. I was just staring at the ceiling. So what I did was I went downstairs in the freezer, grabbed a chunk of lobster butter. Side note, if you want to learn how to make it, check out this video right over here. And then I ate that, and right after I ate that, I went to bed and I was able to fall asleep quite quickly. So for me personally, I find that if I consume a higher fat meal before bed, I'm able to get a much deeper sleep and I'm able to fall asleep a lot quicker. The other thing with regard to fat and protein is if I consume a higher protein meal, I can't consume it close to bed. Whereas with regard to high fat, I could consume high fat 5 minutes before I go to bed and I'm going to be perfectly fine. Then, second thing is going to be stress management. With regard to stress management, I would highly encourage you to come up with a pre-bed ritual. For me, my pre-bed ritual number one is I will go upstairs, I will put some aromatics in my diffuser. Typically, it's going to be clary sage, lavender, and things like peppermint, and that'll just help me get to bed a little bit quicker, and I'll do that about 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed. The other thing that I'm going to do is I tend to eat before I go to bed, and again, that's about 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed. And then the third thing that I'm going to do is I always end up doing my vape pen right before bed. For me, that just helps to calm my mind down a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to relax and get to bed. The second thing with regard to the stress management is going to be if you are very stressed, a grateful log would be very, very beneficial. And this is something that I learned from Charles Poliquin. With regard to the grateful log, there's going to be 3 questions that you want to ask yourself. Number one, what am I grateful for? And you want to list 2 things that you're grateful for that day. The second thing you want to ask yourself is, what did I do for somebody today? So list off 2 things that you did for somebody. And then the third thing is, what did somebody do for me today? And list off 2 things that somebody did for you that helped you out that day. What the grateful log is going to do is it's going to help calm your mind down. It's going to put you more into a parasympathetic state. Parasympathetic state, that is your rest and digest system, whereas sympathetic is your fight or flight. So if you are in a very sympathetic state before you go to bed, you're going to be very anxious and it's going to be very difficult to go to bed. Whereas doing the grateful log, that's going to help calm you down. And then the other thing is, if you are very, very stressed or anxious because you have a lot of things to get done the next morning and you're constantly thinking of everything that you have to do, write a to-do list. Everything that you need to get done the following day, just write it down on a list, and then that will help clear your mind. That way you know everything that you have to do, and it's going to help calm your mind and make it easier to go to bed. Then the third thing is going to be the environment of the room itself. With regard to the environment, number one rule, electronics. You want to make sure that you keep them out of the bedroom. You don't want a TV in there. You don't want any type of electronics that are going to emit any light. You don't want to use your phone. For me personally, I end up using an analog clock as opposed to a digital or as opposed to my phone, and I found that made a really big difference. The other thing with regard to the environment is the darkness of the actual room. You want to make it as pitch black as possible. That is why I don't like using a digital alarm clock, because even those little lights on the alarm clock, they're going to make a big difference with regard to your actual sleep. So what I like to do is use an analog clock that emits no light whatsoever. And then the other thing, you could use blackout curtains if you are living in an area where there is some external light coming from outside of your window. Third thing with regard to environment is going to be the temperature. Generally, most people are going to sleep well in between 16 to 20 degrees with regard to the room temperature. For my American friends, that's going to be roughly 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the fourth thing is going to be the aromatics. I already mentioned this in my pre-bed ritual, but what you can do is light some incense. You can use a diffuser. For me personally, I like using the diffuser. And again, the 3 ones that are typically my go-to: clary sage all the time, lavender, I'll occasionally put lavender, and then peppermint is another one that I really like to use in my diffuser. But those are the 3 things that you could do to try helping yourself go to sleep and make it a little bit easier. Number 1, diet. the timing of the meal, and also the fat versus the protein. Number 2 is stress management. Make sure that you calm yourself down before you go to bed. Try to do something you enjoy that isn't going to make you very anxious. And then the third thing, all of the environment with regard to your bedroom. Make sure that it's nice and cool. Make sure that you have some nice scents in there, and make sure that it is pitch black. If you follow those 3 things right over there, it should help to improve your sleep quality quite a bit. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions at all, go ahead and ask your questions down in the comment section so I can help you guys out. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I'm going to be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.